Have you ever wondered what the very first human argument was about? Was it a matter of survival, or something as simple as a craving? Imagine the dawn of humanity, when every day was a struggle, and every meal was a small victory. Maybe it was something as simple as food. After all, food was precious, sometimes scarce, always essential. It was the difference between thriving and barely making it through the night. Picture two early humans eyeing the last piece of roasted meat by the fire. The flames flicker, casting shadows as they both hesitate, each hoping the other will look away first. Who gets it? Who deserves it more? Is it the one who hunted, or the one who kept the fire burning? These questions are as old as humanity itself. Food has always been at the center of our lives. It's the heart of every gathering, the reason for every celebration, and sometimes the cause of every dispute. It's more than just fuel. It's about family, community, and survival. Sharing a meal meant forging bonds, building trust, and creating memories that lasted generations. Throughout history, food has sparked arguments, not just with fists, but with taste, status, and identity. Disagreements over recipes, ingredients, and traditions have shaped who we are. In ancient times, what you ate said everything about who you were. Your meals could reveal your origins, your wealth, and even your beliefs. A loaf of bread or a bottle of olive oil was more than food. It was a statement. These simple items could symbolize peace, prosperity, or even rivalry between neighbors. These quiet conflicts over ingredients and recipes shaped entire cultures. The way people cooked, traded, and shared food became the foundation of civilizations. Even today, we argue over the right way to make a dish or what belongs on a pizza. Our culinary debates are echoes of ancient disputes carried forward through time. Now imagine that passion magnified across a civilization. Every meal, every festival, every market day was a stage for these age-old dramas. The type of bread you ate could mark your status. The wine you drank could reveal your loyalties. Even the simplest foods carried deep meaning. This is the world we're about to explore, a world where food was pride, power, and sometimes profound disagreement. Every bite was a story, every meal a negotiation. So let's pull up a chair to the ancient table and look past the grand battles for a moment. Let's listen to the quieter conflicts that shaped our history. The real stories were told in kitchens, dining rooms, and marketplaces. Here, the true flavor of history was created, one meal at a time. Our passion for food is ancient, and it's always been worth fighting for. From the last olive on the table to the grandest feast, food has always been at the heart of what it means to be human. We've all heard the phrase bread and circuses, how Roman emperors kept the masses happy, distracting them with food and entertainment. But bread itself was far more than a simple handout. It was a source of conflict, pride, and even resentment in Rome. The whitest, finest bread, panis candidus, was reserved for the elite, a symbol of status and privilege that set them apart from the rest. Most Romans, however, ate panis sordidus, coarse and dark, a daily reminder of their place in society and the limits of their fortune. Imagine seeing a senator's pristine loaf while chewing gritty bread. Every meal became a silent argument about class and inequality. The state-run grain dole, the cura annoni, distributed bread to citizens, but the quality and fairness of this system were always contested and debated. If grain shipments were late or poor, riots could erupt in the streets, threatening the fragile peace of the city. Romans weren't just demanding food, they were demanding fairness, dignity, and a voice in how they were treated by those in power. Bread became a political tool, a measure of the emperor's competence, and a symbol of his relationship with the people. The phrase bread and circuses hides a deeper truth. Bread was a spectrum of status, a flashpoint for unrest, and a daily test of justice. Arguments over bread were about more than hunger. They were about justice, equality, and the right to be heard. In the heart of the empire, the most fundamental arguments were about the most fundamental food, bread, the daily sustenance of life. Even in ancient Rome, you truly were what you ate. Your bread told your story, your status, and your struggles. The daily loaf was never just a meal. It was a statement, a symbol, and sometimes a protest. Food was power, and bread was the battleground where the struggles of Roman society played out. The fight for better bread shaped Roman society, and its echoes can still be felt in the way we think about food, fairness, and power today. If bread was Rome's daily argument, the banquet was its grand spectacle, a dazzling display of excess and ambition that captivated the city's elite. For the upper class, A convivium was more than a meal. It was theater, a stage where every detail was carefully orchestrated to showcase wealth, taste, and social power. Hosts competed fiercely to serve the most exotic, shocking dishes. Stuffed dormice, flamingo tongues, sow's udders, delicacies meant to astonish and even unsettle their guests. These foods weren't chosen for flavor alone. Their true value lay in their rarity, their cost, and the message they sent about the host's connections and resources. Sourcing rare ingredients from the farthest corners of the empire was a way to say, look at my reach, my influence, my ability to command the world's riches. The pressure to impress was immense. A failed banquet could ruin reputations, damage alliances, and leave a host the subject of gossip and ridicule. Writers like Petronius mocked the excess, satirizing how fortunes were squandered on a single meal, and how the pursuit of status could border on the absurd. Banquets became a culinary arms race, fueling trade for ever more unusual ingredients and driving merchants to seek out the rarest delicacies from distant lands. The banquet reflected the empire itself, vast, powerful, and always hungry for more, its appetite matched only by its ambition. It was a delicious, sometimes ridiculous, conflict for prestige, where every course was a move in a social game. Social standing could rise or fall with a single dinner, as alliances were forged or broken over the course of a meal. The competition for culinary novelty shaped not just trade, but the very culture of Rome, weaving together distant provinces through food. In the end, the Roman table was a battlefield of ambition, where every host sought to outdo the last. Every meal was a statement of power, a declaration that echoed across the empire long after the last course was served. Now, let's talk about garum, the fermented fish sauce on every Roman table. Made from fish and salt left to ferment in the sun, garum was the Roman ketchup. But not all garum was equal. The finest garum sociorum came from Spain, clear, amber, and expensive. A jar of this was a mark of wealth and taste. Garum production was a massive industry, sparking regional rivalries. Merchants from Pompeii and Spain boasted their sauce was best, each claiming local superiority. These debates were about more than flavor. They were about pride and identity. Garum reveals the scale of Roman trade and the social divisions at the table. It was a source of wealth, status, and endless debate. The taste of garum was the taste of empire. Salty, complex, and fiercely contested. Even a simple sauce could divide a civilization. In Greece, everything began with the olive tree, a sacred gift from Athena. Olive oil was more than food, it was medicine, perfume, fuel, and prize. Its quality was a matter of intense pride and debate. Was the best oil from Attica or the Peloponnese? Every region claimed superiority. Athens built wealth on its oil, stamping amphorae with the city's owl as a mark of quality. Rivalries over oil fueled economic and political competition. Control of groves and trade routes could spark conflict. Tasting olive oil was tasting history, myth, and identity. Arguments over oil were really arguments over place and pride. For Greeks, a simple olive told the story of who they were. While Romans feasted in excess, Greek philosophers argued for simplicity. Socrates and Plato saw luxury foods as moral dangers. They believed a simple diet, barley cakes, cheese, olives, figs, watered wine, was key to virtue. Simple food kept the mind clear and the body healthy. Exotic spices and complex dishes were distractions, clouding judgment. This debate created cultural tension. New tastes from trade versus traditional ancestral eating. Philosophers championed culinary conservatism, arguing for a return to basics. It was a debate about what it meant to be truly Greek. Simplicity versus complexity, a debate that still echoes today. Our food choices are ethical choices, reflecting our values. The ancient Greek argument lives on in every farm-to-table meal. What we eat is never just about taste, it's about who we are. For everyday Greeks, identity was tied to local cheese and wine. Every region boasted its own style, claiming theirs was the best. Cheese from goats and sheep was ancient and integral. Homer even wrote about it. Crete was known for hard, salty cheeses, other regions for soft, fresh varieties. Wine was an even stronger symbol of pride. Each island's vintage was unique. Thassos wines were fragrant. Chios wines rich and prized. Arguments over cheese and wine were about more than flavor. They were about divine favor and local honor. This connection between food, place, and identity is a Greek legacy. A piece of cheese or a glass of wine tells a story of land and tradition. Today's protected food origins trace back to this ancient pride. Local flavor was and is a badge of honor. The Mediterranean was the ancient world's highway, connecting kitchens and cultures. Marketplaces in Rome, Athens, and Alexandria were battlegrounds of persuasion. Merchants argued their grain or garum was superior, livelihoods on the line. Rome depended on grain from Egypt and North Africa. Control of these routes meant power. Food was an instrument of politics and leverage. The influx of exotic foods challenged traditional tastes, sparking debates over novelty versus tradition. Should Romans stick to local flavors or embrace the new? The marketplace was a melting pot of flavors and ideas. Food fights were settled with coins and clever sales pitches, not swords. This competition forged the Mediterranean's rich food culture. Regional pride and rivalry seasoned every meal. The food arguments we have today are echoes of ancient debates. We still argue about authenticity, pride, and status through food. The Roman quest for good bread lives on in Italian baking. Greek pride in oil, cheese, and wine shapes Mediterranean cuisine. Ancient trade networks introduced ingredients we now take for granted. These conflicts show that food is always evolving, always debated. The tension between tradition and innovation keeps food culture alive. The Roman banquet and Greek simple meal represent two ends of a timeless debate. Next time you argue about a recipe, remember, you're part of an ancient tradition. Food fights are about more than taste. They're about identity and values. It's a story worth sharing and a meal worth celebrating.